Hey yo, G Dash, boy, take your hat off. Fine. This week on Hats Off with G Dash Jones.
Good day, good people. Ooh, like, yeah. See, listen. What? Hold up. That's where we at. What? Listen, don't let me do too much. I ain't gonna do too much. Shouts out, that's little Joe Clark, Black Tea featuring Lacuria. What? Oh man, I told you on the Tina Turner, recipes Tina Turner. I gotta do the shoulders one more time for her. Okay, one more time for her. Tina Turner shoulders, one more time for Tina. Rest in peace. Listen, shouts out Black Tea, Joe Clark featuring Lacuria. Had to drop the vibes. Y'all know that's what I do. Again, if you don't know where you're at, I'm gonna tell you the current location. This right here is Hats Off. That's right, Hats Off with your boy G Dash Jones. So, when I say that, I need y'all to know what you're going to see today. Okay, so today I have the amazing, the illustrious, right? Guaranteed, like, and keep a shape up so hard, I gotta wear a hat. Okay, like I got to. I can get a fresh cut, but her line up, man, listen. Okay, I need you to know. And she be empowering folk. What? Empowering folk. That's right. I got the phenomenal Jenn Thompkins from the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League, or MWL. That's right. We gonna chop it up, talk about some of those amazing programs they got going on, all that stuff we got cooking. Also, and shouts out to the Women's Business Center at True Access Capital for this partnership, bringing y'all such a great conversation. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, for the people, you heard me? First and foremost, I do have to give a quick promo to myself. That's it. I gotta tell y'all what I'm cooking up. I am cooking up on June 10th. It's me and my man Todd Mathis, okay? Listen, he gave me some songs. I'm gonna take those songs. Y'all gonna get a whole storyline out of these songs. It's gonna be y'all gonna get a vibe. It's an improv experience like none other. Talk about it. That's a fact. Live at the MKT Place Gallery. Let me say it right. The MKT Place Gallery on June 10th. The tickets, you either the regular joints or you can get the deluxe. You want to know what the deluxe is, don't you? I'm going to tell you, the deluxe joints, right? Deluxe joints, you're going to get some grub, right? So you're going to be watching us, you're going to get some meal, right? Right? There's an infused treat if you choose to partake of the infused situation. All right then. We're over the value now. Okay. Now I'm just adding extra stuff. Okay. Yes. You get your infused treat. You're going to go ahead, get yourself some grub, and we're going to have, listen, I need y'all to know, the Pop Factor going to provide the decor. It's going to be inflated all around me. Listen, if you get that infused treat with the inflation around you, the vibes, you might hit the Tina Turner shoulders listen, Todd Mathis, shouts out to Todd Mathis Rising. He just dropped his album come out tomorrow. He just had his listening party. I wish I was able to, you know what I mean? Cause it was a vibe. Shouts out to him. Me and him gonna create a whole experience. June 10th, MKT Place Gallery. Listen, bye. So had to tell y'all about that. Took a whole listen. I had to let y'all know because it's a vibe. Now, with that said, also I have to give a shout out to Zeeky El. When I tell y'all they put on a show, my man Cosmic Kai was up in there. He had the joint when I'm fried. Oh man, it was a vibe. He had bars. Young Seda, that 2426. Oh man, bucket 26. It went off. It rang. Listen, it was bars on that stage, bar heavy, straight lyricism all over. I love what Zeeky El was able to put together. Shouts out to B Wells. My man, listen, it was such a dope vibe up there. I know I'm forgetting somebody and I'm mad, but either way, it'll come back to me. Thank y'all for having me. Just to be able to watch that show. That was a great show, that y'all was able to put on there. What's the name? Oh man. And then shouts out to Self Care Saturday, Delaware Music Network. Listen, they had your boy doing yoga. I was trying to just be there, be quiet in the background, pop in. But then they had me just doing the real arm joints, you know what I mean? I had to get my aka, you know what I mean? Listen, shouts out to Gloria Johnson for the vibes. Definitely, the Wellness Connection. really get. I won something. I did. I'm gonna show y'all next time. Cause listen, I'm gonna show y'all next time though. Shouts out to LaShawn Janelle. She sang a little bit and she did the group therapy situation. That you know, it was listen. People was getting over stage fright live and in person. It was such a great vibe. Just to be in that building. Deliciously Dope was in there. Had the healthy food, by the way. Fact, takes 45. You want to eat a smoothie within 45 minutes if you want the nutrients. I ain't know that. Nobody told me. I was just eating the smoothies all regular. Nobody warned me. So, shouts out to Self Care Saturday at the Academy. All parties involved. They had the financial literacy situation. Man, I wish I had all the names, but it was just an amazing thing that was put together. Shouts out to the Delaware Music Network for having such a thing. And because of that I'm hosting Ali Dope on Sunday. You know, it's your boy at the Oddity Bar. It's going to be Serena Joy. She sang a little bit. She got the spoken word a little bit. You know what I mean? Serena Joy. And of course, if y'all don't know, it's going to be KYMA, the I Love Myself Queen. You know what I mean? She got the bowls. They did some bowls at Self Care Saturday too, but she get it with the bowls. You don't know what the bowls is? You gonna come out to you come out to Oddly Dope. See what the bowls is. Bow. Late night grind. I'm gonna be so Ali Dope is at 5. Late night grind. I'm on the radio of UD at 3 on Sunday talking about my show. So you listen. You want me to go a little bit in depth? Then I really get into describing it on a late night grinding on UD radio. All right, so that's what's popping. And shouts out to Aziza. Aziza got a show coming on Saturday too. I'm gonna slide through. You know what I mean? You know, dap a hand up. You know what I mean? Secure some things. You know, shouts out to the people. With that said, now I know what you're thinking. You thinking, hey, come on, G-Dash. Now we ready to hear. You said she had a better shape up than you, and she be creating equality. We want to talk to the person who be doing that, because we want to know how does this happen. Well, guess what? I ain't gonna hold you back no more. Because listen, I ain't gonna hold you back no more. I want you to get right. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the leader and liaison of equality and empowerment. That's right. I don't think y'all know. So I'm gonna tell you, the CEO and president of the Metropolitan
What's going on?
Urban.
What's going on? I'm trying to get my phone situation to be a situation here, but it's okay. Even if I have to use my my hands. 1 second. But yeah, what's going on?
What's good with you? See, they only need to see the side of that, so they can see that just the shape. You know what I'm saying?
Funny. You are funny. I think I might have gotten it. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Little situation right here. Yo, Jennifer. Somebody say, yo, Jennifer. Who that? Who's that? Hi. Hey, how you doing?
I love it. Oh man, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's been a good day. I just came actually. We just launched a program for the 529 Earns program with Delaware State Treasurer Colleen Davis, and so that was phenomenal. We were at the Wilmington POW Center, and it was wonderful. Oh, Jonathan, Whitney, how are you? But we were at the Wilmington POW Center. And we had young men in there who were looking to go to college and thinking about ways to save. And Treasurer Davis really gave a great explanation of the 529 plans. And so if any of you all do not know about the 529 Earns program.
Hold on. We're going to give it to them. But we got to scale back.
Just in case.
I know. I promise you, we're going to give them the programs. We're going to get to the program. But
give them the programs? Okay.
We're going to give them the programs. With a Z. The programs.
Yes, programs.
Let's back up. Tell them a little bit about yourself and the Metropolitan Wilmington and MWL, because I ain't going to listen. Tell them about
Absolutely. So a little bit about myself. So I am originally from the Philadelphia, King of Prussia kind of area. Went to school at Ursinus College, went to Harvard University for my master's, and then came back to this area and started my career at the YMCA, went to corporate for quite some time, and then ended up at a consulting firm. And it was a Black-owned consulting firm in Pennsylvania. Shout out to them. And then the consulting firm, one of our largest nonprofit clients was the Urban League League of Philadelphia. And so I started working with the Urban League of Philadelphia, really helping to design youth programs, helping out with leadership development programs, workforce, all of that. And really, honestly, just fell in love with the Urban League movement, right? And so we have this saying in the Urban League, once a leaguer, always a leaguer, right? It's because of something very magnetic about this movement. Once you get in, you can't leave. And so when the position, was available in Wilmington, I threw my hat in the ring with the passion and desire to just make change, right? The passion and desire to help Black and Brown folk and do it through systems and programs and well-organized organizations, and so that we can be an everlasting help to those who are Black and Brown. And so 6 months interview process, and then the board offered me the job, and I've been in this role for a year. I started in February 2022, and so I've been in this role for about a year and a couple of months now. So that's my journey. That's my journey.
Listen, I love the journey. What I will not gloss past is Harvard. Like you said, God, like I went to the Sarasota Institute. No, you went to Harvard. Okay, we're not gonna let that just live.
Well, let me tell you, it's an interesting story about that, right? I had a mentor in undergrad, and this is the reason why, when I talk about my life and just kind of who really was inspirational in my life, and just even the programs and the people who just took some time out just to invest in this girl, right? And so I'm very adamant, whether it comes, to our program participants or even those who staff, any of that, to make sure that we're mentoring the next generation for the next level, right? And so, growth, as we know, is a little hard, and sometimes the lessons are tough, but, certainly all of the lessons that I've been through has certainly made me a better leader and a better person. And so when I was an undergrad, I had a professor who said, "Oh no, Jen, I think, Harvard and Yale, put that on your graduate school list." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Put Harvard and Yale." And so I not only got into Harvard, I got into Yale. Yale gave me a ton of money, except for like $2,000, but Harvard offered me a full scholarship. And so it was natural just to go to Harvard. So, and that's how I ended up there. Yep. But it was because of somebody speaking life into me. Seriously.
I need the world to understand, because there's something I'm gonna tell you what you said. But listen, people like me in the back, I ain't getting none of them offers. So let me tell people in the back who ain't get them offers how this works. Like, hey, there's getting the offer, and you still gotta pay, because you can't just get into those schools.
Well, that part, right? That part.
Yeah,
that's the big part about paying to get into. But I will say, Ivy League institutions, and many institutions, right? You're smart enough to get in. There's a way that's going to be made, right? And so I know for me, with Harvard, I paid it forward as well. And so when I got out, I made sure that I actually, helped and mentored young people who were looking towards their college decisions, right? And college admissions process, because it can be a daunting task if you're a first generation college student, if you're, if you're not sure, even if you did go to college, if your parent went to college admissions is completely different in 2023 than it is, right? Even 5 years ago, right? And so, I really, really, really have paid it forward with the next generation. And I always look to do that to make sure that we continue to impact the next generation. Because if I can go to Harvard, so can they. And that's where I put it out there. this is not an exclusive experience. I can go there. You all can go there as well. So, yeah.
That's a fact. I'm here for it. Look at that. If she could go, listen, without paying. I need y'all to know, because that was the second half. She could go for free, then you can go for free. Just work. I ain't gonna lie. It's gonna take some work. All right. But
listen, it takes work. It takes sacrifice, right? It takes thinking outside of the box. It takes being that critical thinker, right? It takes not truly looking at what surrounds you to determine your destiny. So that's the other thing too, right? When I was at an Ivy League institution, yes, I went to a pretty good undergraduate college, but when I got into that room, I had to constantly remind myself, yes, the admissions department chose me, right? They saw my grades, they saw my essay, they saw everything, they chose me. I deserve to be in this room. I deserve to be in this room. No matter if I'm the only one that looks like me in this room, I deserve to be in this room. And so that is something in which, I kept with me. And so when I mentor other young people and they're like, I don't know whether I want to do it or anything, I said, listen, go ahead and do it and you'll be all right, right? You'll have that pioneering spirit and do it. But that's, something that we constantly have to remind ourselves. We deserve to be in the room. We deserve to be at the table. But when we're at the table, make sure that you have a voice. And that's the biggest thing. Make sure your voice is being heard.
Okay, so I'm going to take a second for everybody around to look down and grab some of them gems. She dropped a couple of them. Just go and reach down. You don't even got to look down. Just feel for them. There's a couple gems on that ground that she just put down. Okay? Now, what you said was you pay it forward, and like you were talking about yourself personally, and it almost made, like I almost snickered because I was like you are the CEO and president of the MWUL. That automatically means forward payment typically, right? Based on the mission of what you do.
Absolutely.
Like that is that. So, but how about you tell people what is the MWUL? What's the Urban League do? What's their mission? Like I know,
Absolutely.
but let's make sure the world.
Absolutely. So you can't talk about the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League without talking about the National Urban League movement. And so the Urban League was founded in the early 1900s, and it was founded by actually two white women who were suffragists in New York, who saw that northern cities were being, populated by those African-American migrants from the south to the north, or for those from rural communities to more urban communities. And so there are urban leagues in the south as well, but, obviously in more urban areas. And so, I don't think we understand as, we read the history books, but when we think about the Great Migration. It is one of the largest internal migrations in the history of the world. So that's number one. And so to me, what does that say about our history? That there was something pulling so strong for our people to leave Southern context and to leave everything that they knew, to leave their families and everything and pack up and to go to other cities. Isabel Wilkerson, who's a journalist who has a great book about the Great Migration, and she actually interviewed folks who had, been with the Urban League movement. But, she has this great line, and it's the title of her book, actually, that says that they went by thousands, and this might have been a Richard Wright quote, but they went by thousands, right, in search of warmth of other suns, right? And so SUNS. And so, that's what it was, the Great Migration. And so these women said, hold on, when folks come here, they need workforce, because you go from a rural context to a urban context. There aren't any farms around, right? So folks needed workforce. Folks also needed housing. That was a huge one, right? Education. And so, and then, other basic necessities to make sure that the new population, our migrants, the migrants that were coming, could be acclimated to Northern society. And so that's how the Urban League was founded, right? And so it wasn't until the 1960s, our famous president, Whitney Young, the National Urban League president, Whitney Young, he, was good friends with Dr. King and Coretta King. And they urged him, they said, listen, the Urban League can just not be, shouldn't just be a social service organization, right? You got to speak up about civil rights. You have to speak up about advocacy, right? And so it was really that kind of mentorship and that advice that really started to shape what we see as the modern Urban League, in that we do programs, but we also do advocacy, right? So I always like to say this line: we do this very beautiful and careful dance between advocacy and then also programming. And so that's how the Urban League really even functions today. We have advocacy. So at any point you can see our advocacy team down in Dover at Legg Hall, and we're signing on to legislation, and, we're speaking up. We're doing at times when it does call for, certain protests and certain organized activities on the advocacy front. But then on the other end, we have programs, right? Because I say to my team all the time, the average person coming into our office who is seeking rental assistance has no idea what SB 101. And maybe they may do, but at that point, even if they do know the bill, at that point, I need my rent paid. I'm not concerned about what the advocacy is at that point. And so that's what makes the Urban League so phenomenal. And so unlike any other civil rights organization that has ever been founded, because of the fact that we do both, right? And so some of the programs that we have going on right now at MWUL is housing. So we're doing rental assistance, and then we also have are moving into the home buying space too, really helping those who are who are seeking to become homeowners. As we know, homeownership is the easiest, sometimes the easiest gateway to generational wealth in the U.S., in our country. And then we also have youth development and education programs. We have had a great week with youth development programs. We took a group of students from Howard High School to EPAM, which is a global tech company, and they did a whole World of Work tour. They were able to meet the CEO of EPAM and some other great folks and learn about tech careers. And then we also had our Achievement Matters graduation yesterday, in which 25 young people from Thomas Edison Middle School, so shout out to Thomas Edison Middle School, they graduated from our Achievement Matters program, in which they learned about career exploration and then also college prep. Each session that we had every Monday and Wednesday, we did a virtual college tour with the students. We had guest speakers. We had our leadership development program come in and to talk about careers with the young people, right? And so that's what we do with youth and education. And we're actually gearing up for a great summer program called Yes We Tech, in which we'll have 21 young people who will be going through an internship experience. And so working with corporations, and then also gaining a tech or digital literacy certification. And so we are, our youth programs are certainly growing, as we know it's needed. And then we also do economic empowerment, right? And so making sure that we equip our small businesses with the tools and the resources that they need to continue to thrive. And so we're starting to very much get into that space. And then workforce as a whole, right? And so I had a great meeting today with some great folks in the workforce space, and we're looking to expand our workforce print in the city of Wilmington, so that those who are Black and brown will have access to careers, or even into, say, unions or anything like that, that possibly they did not have great access to. And so we're really making careful partnerships to ensure that folks are really tapped in, and that we can bring the right resources and the right connections to our community. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell, listen, hold on. But give me one second. Hey, y'all back, clip that up and put it out, just that, because so people know where they can do their job. Ain't nothing back behind me but hats. So I'm really just, I'm gonna do it myself. But at some point, the world needs to see. Right. Like the world y'all need to listen to what she just said, because she's helping people with jobs. Let's talk about it. Okay, we talk about and I'm only pointing that out for now. It's jobs, programs, schooling, all that type of stuff. Just that moment of, by the way, this is what's happening tomorrow, or at least within the upcoming spaces, and then you list like 16 things, and it was like, yo, y'all need to know it's opportunity. The part that what you said that really resonated with me most seriously is like, and then right before you explain the programming, you explained that y'all do both advocacy and programming. Here's why that matters to me, right? I think I live in a world where you can meet people who look like me that will say, like, you get people who look like us and say things like, well, how Black lives matter if they don't matter to ourselves. That's the thing, right? Like, I'm talking about, like, skin folk, like, yo, nah, fam, because such and such down the street out there, what I mean? So what you mean? We don't care. That's a real energy, right? And the problem, and the answer to that is, cool, if we got to fight for our rights up here, you're right, we just got to educate ourselves back there. Like, both need work. It's not like one, this is not to say, oh, go ahead, y'all do what y'all want. We need to fix this. No, both need fixing.
Absolutely.
Right? Which means when those bills start to move and those needles start to grant, then we need education to be able to manage ourselves and manage things when those freedoms get to coming. Like, otherwise, it winds up going left anyway, because you get something that you're not mentally prepared for. Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it certainly is that, and one of the things that I mentioned with one of our famous presidents, Whitney Young, in the 1960s, he was really instrumental, and I don't think folks understand just how instrumental the Urban League was, and even this culture of the federal government working with community agencies, right? And so a lot of like what we see at appropriations and and these things that are given to organizations or states, a lot lot of that was ushered in through Whitney Young. And, you know, Whitney Young has this famous line, and when he talked to Lyndon Baines Johnson, the president at the time was the 60s, and he said, you know, literally, if America goes to war, right, you all do not build the planes yourself, right? You march over a huge check to Boeing, and they're going to build the planes so we can go to war, right? And so why aren't we able to equip our community agencies who have direct contact with the people who need the help with these resources, right? And so it really was through his working in the National Urban League that really turned that tide, because prior to then, national government wasn't really partnering with community agencies and things like that, right? And so now you have, you know, obviously what has emulated a lot of that has been our corporate communities and other communities as well. And so you see this corporate responsibility that comes in, things like that, because again, if you're saying that you're a part of the community, you have to be partnered with those folks who are with the people, who are doing the work. And so, you know, I just don't think that, you know, the Urban League has been in the forefront of all of that, right? And so, you know, I can't stress it enough that, you know, we owe the Urban League, every nonprofit owes the Urban League a great deal of debt, just because of the fact of even setting out that trajectory, because prior to a Whitney Young really negotiating that kind of process, right, with our national government, who knows where, you know, who knows what would have happened to a lot of nonprofits. But, you know, that's just to say that. But I have another Urban League story, too, which is actually really fascinating. And I didn't say this. And so, you know, I started with saying that, you know, Whitney Young was influenced by Dr. King and Coretta King. And so I have this great story. You know, in 1945, a young girl from Alabama, she migrates, and she was a part of the Great Migration, right? She migrates from Alabama to Ohio to go to college at Antioch College. And, you know, she's there for 4 years, what have you. And then she goes over to Boston, New England, Conservatory of Music in Boston, right? And so this young lady, she, just like any other college student, right, but adding on the fact that it's the 1940s, you know, she's Black, and then also her parents are farmers, right? They're not college educated. She was going through an economic challenge, right? She was broke. And so she didn't know how she was going to pay college tuition and her tuition to stay at New England Conservatory of Music. She didn't know how she was going to pay for her room and board. And so it was the Urban League. That gave her a job at a mail order company, which is what was an old term for probably a post office, so to speak, that gave her a job. And it was because of that job that she was able to stay in Boston. She was able to be to continue her studies at the New England Conservatory of Music. And so 2 years later, she met someone called...
Hey, yo, G-Dash, boy, what y'all folks thinking? Fine. I'm thinking on June 10th, you need to treat yourself to an experience at the Marketplace Gallery. It's going to be me and Ty Mathis sounding like this. Hold on, Ty. You get to finish your songs, but I'm also going to do spoken word that ties everything together and brings the audience along. See, this is an experience when you're hearing this. So interactive, I'm still asking the crowd to give me a word to capture this inflated experience. That's the pop factor. Well, what makes it deluxe? You already set the scene. That includes Chef Rel's delicious cuisine, and includes a great view, preferred seating, and includes an infused edible treat. Oh, gee. What y'all folks thinking? It's Ty Mathis and me. Marketplace Gallery, June 10th, 2023. Doors open at 6, show starts at 7, advance tickets only. So come on, get your tickets here, g-jones.com. Hey.
Called Dr. King. And so that was Coretta Scott King, and they wind up getting married, and the rest is history, right? And I truly believe if it wasn't for the woman, right, I don't believe that Dr. King would be who he is in our minds, and even he could have done what he did for this country if it had not been for her. So I say we owe the Urban League again a great deal of debt, because if it wasn't for the Urban League, we don't know where we would be in history right now. So those are my two like really cool stories about the Urban League.
I need you to know how fly you told that story in such a Tarantino way. I'm gonna tell you why it was Tarantino, right? And don't give me. It's not the reason why you think it. It wasn't Tarantino just because I didn't know you was going to land that correct, it being Coretta Scott King, it was Tarantino, because you took us full circle to the person who said to Mr. Young, hey, I need y'all to fight for a little bit of advocacy over here. You took me all the way back. I didn't even know he was going to.
You know, it's so interesting. That should be a Tarantino movie, right? Like,
wow.
Definitely. But really, I mean, when we talk about, you know, one of my favorite things to talk about in the whole world is the Urban League, right? And I hope, you know, my passion is radiating through this Instagram live. But, you know, what we have to understand is that the Urban League is such a strong movement, right? We have 93 affiliates across this country, right? In different communities. There's multiple in some states. Here in Delaware, we are the only one. You know, Delaware obviously is the smallest state. And so we're the only Urban League that's located here, but we have Baltimore that's very close. We have Philly that's extremely close to us as well, and New York and all of that. So I mean, the Urban League is such a fierce movement, right? And so I have this great line that I say all the time, that we're not a moment, we're a movement, right? We are a movement, we are not a moment. And so, but we're such a fierce movement, and we have been on this movement for more than 100 years, right? Nationally. But here in Wilmington, we're, you know, almost 25 years old. We'll be 25 years old next year. So in 2024, we were founded in 1999 by James Gilliam. And so, and our founding president was Dr. Tony Allen. The second president after that was a Congresswoman, Lisa Blunt Rochester. And then my predecessor was actually Eugene Young, Director Eugene Young, who's now the Director of Housing for the state of Delaware. So the Urban League has a tendency to produce some pretty amazing folks. But I think that just speaks to the power of the movement, right? It is the power of the movement. And it's just that, it's a movement, right? And so when we talk about the Great Migration and how folks had the pioneering spirit to move from where they felt that, you know, hey, this is not working out for me at this given time. This is not, you know, obviously I'm in danger, my family's in danger. We got to go for the warmth of other suns, right? They moved, they took that pioneering spirit. And so that's what we're doing here in Wilmington. We're chipping away slowly but surely, and we're moving, and we're gaining supporters every day. Gaining supporters. So if there's any partners out there, anyone who wants to partner with the league or even join the league, we are a membership organization. And so we do have a general membership where you can join our young professionals or our guild, which is for those who are 40 and above, and our young professionals for 40 and younger. And then we also added, again, a general category that's called Investor in the Movement. And then we have a youth category as well, youth membership of $10. So because we want our youth to be engaged as well. And then we're going to be launching an app pretty soon too. So all of our members will get access to our app, which will have some pretty cool things on there. So yeah.
Listen, they bringing y'all into technology. They got the chilling. Okay. They got the regular youth, right? And I don't know which one you want to put me in. We're just going to leave that out, but I could go in the right category. Okay. The right age bracket myself. So y'all just need to join. So we are going to do this. But and I need to. I also gotta say major bar alert, because I do spoken word, and you just gave that we not a moment, we a movement. Yes. Bars. I had to just put that on.
Yes. I think that is like a hashtag. I want folks to really get in their mind. We are not a moment, we're a movement. And so, you know, and that means that some things may change as we progress, but we're a movement. And, you know, our national president, Mark Morial, has this great line to say, you know, people come up to me and say all the time, Urban League does so much, right? And he, you know, he has this response back that says, you know, the Urban League does everything, right? The Urban League does everything that impacts our people, right? And so, you know, that's why it's called a movement and not a moment, because we're just not stuck in one thing, right? You know, obviously a pandemic happens. The Urban League is there to serve, right? You know, other things happen. The Urban League is there to serve. We're constantly having a phenomenal team that is constantly innovating and thinking of new ways in which we can truly make impact in a community through innovative programming, right? Innovative partnerships, all of that. And so, you know, but that's really what it takes. And so I just definitely want to shout out Dion, my good friend Dion on here, who will be, you know, hopefully coming out to help us a little bit with the Urban League. league in our social media. He's on here. He's tagging some partners. I appreciate you. He's tagging Pepsi and Coca-Cola and Amazon on here. Just because, again, this is a movement, and we have to be able to be active like that. But I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. That was a phenomenal answer. But okay. So now let me ask you the other side of this, right? Because yes, your passion is radiating. This is glowing. This is dope. I want to know, does it ever get, and mind you, there's only one in Delaware, and life is always lifing. Does it ever get frustrating? Does it ever does it ever get difficult? And how do you get past those times?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, my difficult moments happen when folks don't understand the vision or the purpose of our organization, right? And so it gets, but sometimes your voice has to be louder, or your vision has to be louder than the voices, right? And so, you'll get even sometimes folks who are claiming to be partners, folks who, heck, sometimes, folks who may say they want to join the team, not join the team, or what have you, right? And they're like, oh, well, we don't get your vision, or we don't listen. This is the thing, right? This is what it is. We are about serving our people, right? And so the way that looks, I can't give you, something, a plan in which it's going to be stagnant for 10 years. I can't do that. If you want to, fund that kind of organization, that's just not what this is. But if you're about funding truly what the real work is, and funding the real work of human beings who are agile, who are flexible, who have different life things going, right? This is the place for you. And so it gets frustrating in that. But, one of the things is that I like to call myself a chief storyteller, right? And so, I storytell with my partners. We talk about impact stories. We discuss the ways in which the league can help them as well as help us, right? And so we talk about that, and we share that story, and just not only with funders, but, I'm a chief storyteller when it comes to the team, and, and really bringing full circle as far as the impact in which we're making in the community, right? And again, just shout out to my phenomenal team who's just thinking constantly, minds thinking constantly about just new and innovative ways for us to make impact in this community. And then, I also see it with some of our members, right? And really bringing it home about what the vision of the league is and what the league is, and how they, I say this all the time, that our young professionals and our guilders, they are our foot soldiers of the movement. They can go and have far-reaching places way further than possibly I could just do, or even my staff could do. And so we really empower our young professionals, our volunteers, our members to really go out and to be almost, I'm a preacher as well, so to almost be converters, right? Or make sure that they are apostles, rather, converting folks to the Urban League movement, just not only sharing what it is, but convincing folks to come in and to be a part of this great movement. And so, so it can become frustrating, right? When you have all of that. And, folks are like, well, we don't get it, right? Aren't you just like, this other organization or that other? No. Don't minimize, right? Don't minimize us to one thing. And so that can just be a little frustrating. But again, when I say to myself, I'm the chief storyteller, and I like telling the story. I like telling our story of impact and what we're doing, and also just the history of the Urban League as well, because I found that a lot of people don't know the history of the Urban League. And so, here in Delaware and also just nationally. So, I love telling the stories as well.
Yes. Okay. So listen, you said some dope stuff. I'm telling you, like, and it's just, you're right. Most people don't know. I didn't know, right? And which is like, moments like this make me so glad I got this platform, because I would have never known what y'all did. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't know.
Now you have to go out and tell 5 friends.
Tell 5
with the Urban League.
I'm gonna share this with 25 people. What you talking about? I'm lying. It's gonna be more like 100. Like, wait till you listen. I'll tag you in it. Don't worry about it. But what I would say is, the bar that I think is even bigger. Like you got some bars. Like that whole, sometimes your vision has to be louder than their voices. That applies in so many different things in the world. Woo! But I'm glad that you applied to your vision, because that is so important. That, like, seriously, because it gets difficult, because when people don't understand your vision, they start to impart their voice. It's like, I ain't really asked you. I ain't really asked you for that. Well, we did, like,
a lot of voices, right? And a lot of times have you swaying this part, part and this part. I'm a very reflective person, so I don't like to, it's not always best to just react to everything, right? And so I sit back as a leader and really reflect on things and truly look at all angles of the equation. Because, yes, it may be, again, another Bible story, it may be lawful, but not expedient, right? And so something may be right to do, but it may not be the right time to do it, right? And so I always sit back and really think about that. And then I have my own personal board of directors, right? And what I mean, like this is my personal kind of cabinet that I have, who are other Black women CEOs, executive leaders, who I can bounce things off of. Like, what do you think of this? Have you dealt with this situation? Like, what do you think of moving here or doing that? And that has really helped, to really sustain me and to keep the vision intact, right? And so, so I mean, that's real. And I say that for anyone who is starting your own business, anyone doing a nonprofit and executive leadership, anyone who's really trying to forge ahead and do something that possibly, is not what people think is orthodox or, what have you. Just keep on pressing, right? And get your people around you, right? Get the people around you who are going to really drive that forward. And it's possible, right? Maybe some days where it's bleak and maybe some days where it looks like the vision is cloudy, but I promise you keep at it, right? The fog does clear and the vision becomes clear. And even in that, you may go through another foggy stage, right? But you have to, again, to have your vision really outsound or sound out rather their voices. And so that's something I always keep in mind.
Oh man. Okay. I just want to take a quick brief moment again, one more time, for me to look around and tell those who are listening to take a moment, look around, okay? Reach down, get a handful of them gems, because she just put them down. Dropped a whole bunch of gems on you. Get a handful, get a good handful of them gems, okay? If you need to, rewind this back on the playback, the gems are still going to be there, okay?
Rewind the tape.
Rewind the tape, because this is one of them ones, y'all. Okay. Because you're the chief storyteller, which takes me to Chief Rock. I don't know why, but you're the chief storyteller, okay? Okay. I have to ask this, and you mentioned, you being in leadership and hearing your story. Is there a moment or how did you kind of know that you were in the right space in what you were doing is working? Like, you know what? This is what I'm supposed to be. This is how this is supposed to go.
I mean, there's been so many moments of that, right? And I will tell you, obviously leading an organization can be tough at times. But there have been, again, another preacher reference, there's sometimes what we consider angels in the wilderness, right? And so just at the time in which you feel like to give up or at the time where it's tough, somehow some glimpse of an angel comes in and reminds you why you are here doing what you do, why the Urban League is here doing what it does, right? Just not me, but just the Urban League. And, and where I see that truly come alive are our programs, right? I truly see it come alive in that, right? And so when I see our youth programs going forth, where I see a person who's saying, hey, I'm now going to be a first-time home buyer because of the league, or, I have gotten rental assistance, or, we launched some digital literacy courses in which those, folks who said, I'm tired of being kind of in hard labor, I want to be able to go to a more of administrative role, and this digital literacy course is giving me the confidence in order to do that, right? There was a woman from South Carolina who was born in the 1940s, migrated here from South Carolina, and she said it was with the Urban League that she created her first email address to our digital literacy program, right? And so those things really do matter and help all of us, and just not me, right? The entire staff, the board. I start my board meetings, with a mission moment when I do my report, right? Because I think it's always important to remind everyone, and even myself, right, of the work and the impact that this organization is having. And so so for me, I mean, there's been so many different, moments of just beautiful impact. And, an email that I got a beautiful email. We have a leadership development program called Gilliam Fellows. And, I had this woman who was in our Gilliam Fellows program and who wrote this beautiful testimonial, right? I spoke on the first day of the Gilliam Fellows, and she just talked just so glowingly about the program and how she wasn't going to apply, but she's so glad that she did. And this program is giving her the confidence to continue to connect what her passions are to community. Because there are a lot of folks out there who want to be involved in the community, but just don't know how, right? And so the Urban League is really even that gateway for us to do that. And I do see our YPs were on, our young professionals were on. So shout out to them. That is a way. Please join our young professionals from 40 and under. But they, again, foot soldiers of the movement, right? So many of our young professionals are in corporate or in their professional careers and are looking to be involved in the movement in a volunteer capacity, right? And so, it's there for them too. But I would just say that there's angels, right? And so there have been so many different, just the glimpses, again, preacher reference, the glimpses of glory that happen, right? Even in a growth stage, there are those glimpses of glory that happen. And I'm not saying that it's not tough days. I wouldn't be right, or I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that, right? There are tough days, there are things that you have to contend with, right? As a historically Black organization, right? I am a young Black woman leading this organization. There are things that I come up against as well. And so, but what always gives me faith is that there's some angel in the wilderness, just when, it's gotten too rough. It's just something there that reminds me that I'm in the right place and that the Urban League is in the right place.
It's a fact, yeah. You be snapping. All right. Right now. Oh, okay, right. So now, and by the way, those stories are touching, just thinking of that, because you're showing people progression in creating opportunity for people by giving them information to help them expand themselves. It's just dope. And so I gotta ask this part when I think about what you're doing for others, and again I go back to your journey and how you got here, because it's not easy, and it was hard work, but it's so super impactful.
Yeah.
What's some of the advice that you would have given a younger you who was just trying to figure it out before you got to this point of leading the Urban League, being the chief storyteller? Okay. What would you have told yourself when you were still trying to be a young chief storyteller? You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. So I will say, so a couple of things. One is a couple of one-liners. So one, because I think about this often, so this is a great question. One, everything's going to be all right. Everything will be all right, right? A lot of us spend a lot of time worrying about what tomorrow is, worrying, am I going to be successful, worrying about, again, the spiritual, consciousness of me, God, I don't want you to forget me, right? And so, but everything in the end is going to be okay. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. So that's something that I would say. And then the next one is, be led by your faith and not by your fear. And so, and that's extremely, that's extremely important. And so again, I think this goes back and speaks to your voice has to be louder. I mean, your vision has to be louder than the voices. But your faith has to be larger than your fear. That's just what it is. In anything that you do, your faith has to be larger than your fear. And so, when folks, going back to even the Harvard thing, right, and making sure that I put in my application. And so, Harvard accepts X amount of students. Why can't one of them be me, right? And so that happened, and even my career trajectory. I didn't get every job that I applied for, right? But I knew that every job and where God wanted me to be. And so, and having that, basically that God ordained or led life. I'm very, very adamant that, God makes no mistakes. And so certainly where I am right now is where I'm supposed to be in this season. And so, so that's the advice. Those are the two pieces of advice I would give my 14-year-old. Yeah.
Listen, I like it. I'm here for it, y'all. Listen, I need people to run grab both of them. Okay, those gyms she served into, she had the rest of them. You had to listen to the conversation, pick the gyms up. She said, "Here's the gym." Okay,
Right.
listen. Like that, I can't tell y'all nothing different. That's just what it is. So, oh man, I have to say, this has been a phenomenal episode. You've been a phenomenal guest. I love the fact that when people can go to the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League, not only can they learn how to join and contribute, they can learn how to be advocates, and then they can learn how to join different programs to better themselves, to give themselves more opportunity. Right, so I just want to highlight kind of the spectrum that comes across with that. That to me, it's like, okay, this. I love this. Now, and before I get up out of here, so here's the thing about me. So I do spoken word.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? And when I do such a thing, I do improv sometimes. Like I listen. I don't get it twisted. I got a whole book. You see what I'm saying? But right now on my show, I do improv. And I got a live show coming up too. I'll tell you about it. And I tell people, if you give me a word, I'll give you a poem, right? And that's how I do it. Okay. So I'm gonna have you give me a word. While you think of a word, this is what I'm gonna tell the people. Like, go ahead, you get to thinking.
Okay.
While I listen. By the way, June 10th, come see your boy, me and Tom Mathis. All right, we gonna put on a show. There's gonna be some grub. You know, you get the deluxe ticket. You know what I'm saying? You can, the grub be there. We gonna get you some grub, right? There are some infused treats if you choose to partake. Listen, it's gonna be a whole vibe. He gonna do some songs. I'm gonna do some spoken words. It's gonna be a whole story that's engaging. You can only get your tickets available at g-jones.com, right? That's a new website, g-jones.com, right? You can also grab one of these. You see what I'm saying? Because I'll be thinking, and I'm thinking. You see what I'll be thinking. That's just what it is. So go ahead, get yourself a shirt and a ticket, or just a ticket. I don't care how you want to do it. You can get the shirt when you see me. All right, but either way, June 10th, live at the NKT Place Gallery. Show starts at 7, doors open at 6, June 10th. And you're going to hear me do some words. And I'm going to say something like, yo, y'all give me a word, I give you a poem. And they going to give me a word, it's going to be like this. What word you got for me?
Movement.
Ooh, we be moving. All right. So shouts out to Jenn Thompkins for being an amazing guest on today's episode from the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League. With that said, the word I was given is movement. So I'm thinking, I've seen a lot of people be stagnant. It is only wild to me that they start asking what's happening. Like they get lost in confusion when things get to moving, like my progression is an illusion. You didn't see me do it. Did I lose you? I was going and trying. But the part that has me laughing sometimes and sometimes frustrated and losing my mind is that when you're moving as you should, they don't lend that hand, or at least take your hand when you try to pull them along like, yo, I know what's good. Matter of fact, I start to get confused at this because they start preferring to be stagnant and complacent than, making moves to erase it. Erase what, you might ask? Don't worry, I won't pass. Erase those same thoughts that got them stuck being stagnant in the first place. Erase all that hate that got them lost trying to find their new place. Erase all those moments that told them they couldn't own it, that swore that somebody else could control it, and lied in their face. See, they want to erase none of that, but they're going to try to pull me back when I state the fact that we can move past all that. I'm confused at their acts. Somebody have to help me. I get it. My fault. I should just relax. But, okay, it's like they're addicted to some standards and they don't know how not to relapse. Okay? Like, I'm trying to build something up and they just want to let it all collapse. Fine. I get it. The only way for me to understand it, and really, I have to kind of demand it. Because I know what I'm doing, and I know that what they do is confuse it with being something that they would lose in just seconds. Oh! They don't know what I'm doing. They don't know what you're doing. This ain't a movement. It's a movement. All right, yeah. Something like
that was dope. Absolutely love it. absolutely love it. That was I tagged National Urban League in that, by the way. So yes, absolutely, absolutely, my friend. It has been the utmost pleasure being on here with you tonight. And you know, I put my social media handles in the chat. Definitely follow us at MWULDE, and then me at MWUL_Prez. And you know, we're constantly putting up events on there, and also just showcasing the great work in which the league is doing. And become a member, right? Because you're not a moment, you're a movement. So become a member of the movement as we continue to enact change in the city of Wilmington and also the greater Delaware area. So yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Listen, if y'all listen, I post it. When I repost this, it's gonna have the situation here. So you go like it, you know, they can count. It'll be where all the words are. It's gonna have the website, right? Bow. It's gonna have y'all, so they can join. They can participate and grow, because that's what this is about.
That's right.
You know, it's also at my website, because why not? You know, g-jones.com. You know, I might as well do it. Shout out to my man Lindsay Epps Tucker, because he put that joint together. If y'all see my website, Lindsay Epps Tucker, get your Lindsay Epps Media. Get yourself one. He's hooking it up. Oh man, we all gotta push each other for it. I love it. So and shouts out to the women's business center,
absolutely.
At True Access Capital. I had to do that for the one time. All right, y'all. Oh, other things that I'll mention. I'm also putting out this weekend is a holiday weekend, so I feel like I'm gonna drop a little playlist. I feel like it's time for a little playlist of all new music. You know, I keep playing new music, like, wow, what song is? Listen, I want people to hear these new artists that's coming out. So I think I'm gonna drop the playlist this weekend. Y'all gonna get the Aka, the joint that I played to open up, Lakiria and Black Fleet. That's gonna be on there. Zeeky El, them gonna be. Listen, it's gonna be a vibe. All right, we gonna have the whole situation there. So that's coming. Yep, you know. All right, y'all. With that said, this has been an episode of Hats Off. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you, and y'all have a great day.
Have a good night.